Hi, we are here today with Everett Burns in Salina, Kansas. So, Everett, I'd like you to tell me where you were born.
At a farmhouse in Delvin, Kansas.
Delvin. Where is Delvin from here, from Salina?
Yeah, it's east of Harrington.
East of Harrington. Okay.
Council Grove.
Your parents were farmers?
Yes,
Did you have brothers and sisters?
I was the oldest.
And how many brothers and sisters?
I had two brothers.
Okay, great. And so you learned to work on the farm. What kind of jobs did you do on the
Well,
farm?
First job I remember is going out to woodpile and picking up sticks to carry in for the home comfort stove, kitchen to cook stove. The other things were too big for me to carry.
So then you went to school in Devon?
No, I went to school in Grandview. Well, I started in Highland. I went 3 years, or part of 3 years there. And then in March we moved over to Grandview District, and I went to school there. One-room schoolhouse, 8 grades.
Mm-hmm. And then did you go to high school?
Yes, went to high school in Delvin,
Okay. And what year did you graduate?
44.
Were you planning to go in the service, or did you get drafted? How did you get in the service?
Well, my friend and I went and tried to enlist. And I was color confused, so I couldn't get into the Air Force. And he was underweight, and so anyhow, we just give up trying to enlist. Waited on the draft.
How long was it before you got drafted?
Well, not too long. Yeah.
So you were drafted into the Army.
Yeah. I and the boy that I went to grade school and high school with, and then we picked up another boy in two boys in Council Grove, and we took the train to Kansas City, and we met there and took another train to Leavenworth. And
Is that where you did your basic training in Leavenworth?
we just were inducted there and
Okay.
loaded on another train and went to Dallas, I think it was, and then they, I can't remember how we got from there over to our basic training was at Tyler, Texas.
That's in the middle of nowhere.
No, it was a pretty nice town.
Okay.
It was a churchy town, and another town, the name of Gainesville, and it was where you went if you wanted to do all your drinking and carousing around.
You didn't do that, did you?
No, I made one trip.
Oh, you
I
did?
guess 2 trips, my first and my last.
I guess I didn't get your birthday. What's your birth date?
It's 6/8/26.
Okay, you're getting close to that 100 mark, aren't you?
I
98?
just had one. Been a whole week celebrating.
Well, that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
had a really nice birthday.
Good. Good. So you're in Texas, you're doing your basic training,
Yes.
and then when you got done with that, where were you stationed?
Then we were moved up to the Red River, north of Dallas, and we had advanced infantry training there, and we who went through that got to be what was called expert infantrymen. And mainly what we learned was how to survive in the jungle and how to kill people and how to keep getting killed.
Good to know when you're in the service.
Yes.
And you were there for a while, and then where'd you go?
Several weeks.
Hmm. And were you shipped to Europe, or did you go
No,
to South?
We went to Camp Deal, California, and wasn't there very long till we shipped out of San Pedro, I think it was, on a merchant ship, SS John Likes, and we went to Hawaii, and we were supposed to get off the ship there, but we never was able to. But they put, when we left, they put 300 guys on there that had bad time. They'd been more time in guardhouse, and they had good time in the Army.
Oh,
And they sent guards without till we 3 miles out, and then they went back, and became friends of one of those guys, and he says, "Don't ever play poker with any of us guys. We've had 3 years of poker playing, but we got along with them pretty good. They had a couple of fights, but didn't bother us."
that's
And
good.
the merchant marines ship, but we had Navy guards.
Okay, so you were on your way to the South Pacific?
We were on our way after we left Japan, or we left Hawaii, and we stopped near Anawita, but we never got off there. We could just see it in the distance. And then we landed in Manila and took a little train up to the replacement depot up there. And and that's where I got split up with my buddy from Council Grove.
So you were in different.
His name was Art Davis, and later he ended up in Korea, and I was assigned to Grape Terre. They had us had tents set up on the beach, and that's where we were camped there. And the war was winding down, and some of the troops were moved into the Philippines. And then the interesting part of that was a tent, and the sides were rolled up, and my Army cot was right against the edge of the tent. And it rained, and I thought, oh man, everything's going to be soaked. But it rained straight down, never even got a drop on it. Sure, different rains in Kansas. Yeah. And
Did you leave the flaps up all the time
yeah,
to get more air?
it was warm. Yeah.
I bet.
And then they dropped the bomb. Thank you, Harry Truman. And then right away, we started. We were fixing to invade Japan, and right away, they started fixing to occupy it. And I think we moved into occupation 28 days of when we were going to invade it. There,
28 days after you thought you were going to invade it? Is that what you said?
we were going to invade it,
Uh-huh.
and 28 days later, when we were going to invade it, we occupied it.
Okay, so you went to Japan then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I landed at a place in Sasebo. It was I was surprised the guys that didn't know how to drive. So I got a Jeep, driving a Jeep right away, and I landed in Sasebo. It was a Navy base, and I let the ramp down and never got my wheels wet. So then I had the job of driving like road patrols, and we'd go off and we'd follow some little road off and usually end up at some farmer's place up on the hill. We found caves. We found one cave that had, I don't know how many kamikaze planes in that they never got to use, but they were folded up and put in there. And
Did
then we
the
found-
U.S. military take those planes, or did you leave them? Did
I don't
you?
know what happened to them. That was then we also drove. I had another guy. They had these big guns up on top of these hills, and they were cutting them up with torches, and we were hauling them, and a convoy taking that scrap someplace, and we were one of us in front, the other back, and we convoyed someplace that they had all that scrap iron. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys ever get to where the bombs were dropped?
Yes.
You went by where that was?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little?
Hiroshima. I was stationed close there, and after I was home, they called me in, and I says I had a little junk rod on my chest, and the guy says, "Were you?" Must have been the Pacific. I says, "Yeah." I says, "Why are you calling me in? Is this?" And he says, "Well, I can't tell you," but he had a paper layer there, and I was close to Hiroshima. They were checking us for something. I don't know what. You never know what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you checked out?
Yeah, I checked. Okay.
That's good.
And he even had something for that. We call it jungle rod, but.
Were you just at Hiroshima that one day, or did you go there several times?
No, I was, well, I just went there one day to see, but then I was stationed, moved up closer to it, and I was in a cotton, where they brought cotton and made it into cloth, and we were in one wing of that, and that's when I got, well, the infantry outfit I was with got to go home with 85 points. I think I had about 19. So I got transferred, and it was a MASH unit, but the guy that was in charge of it was a dentist, and he wanted a dental lab, and I don't know, he had a lot of pull, and so there was 3 of us that was learning to make false teeth, and I loved that work. And then the second pay period, why, they docked me $10, and I went and complained, and he says, "No, that was your infantry, expert infantry deal." He says, "If you go back down to infantry, why, I can't take that away from you." And I loved what I was doing, and the Army was feeding me and clothing me, and I was sending money home anyhow. I says, "Oh, the heck with it." So it cost me $10 to get it to stay with that MASH unit, but I loved that work. I don't know, and it satisfied the creative urge. And then when I got home, that's what I decided I wanted to do. So I went to work at a lab here in Salina, and it was a branch of Wichita. And then the fellow that was in charge, he quit and took me with him. And then I had an opportunity to go to work for a dentist as a private technician in Garnett. And so I moved down there, and when he passed away, I went into business for myself. And I was working for 50 dentists in the western part of the states and here in Salina. And it worked out real good for me.
Sounds
At that
like it.
time, Joyce went to work for me. It was in the 50s.
Wow.
So
Did you have to go to school, like on the GI Bill or anything? Or you learned everything in the Army?
Well, this doctor found out that I was working, found out that I had that, so he capitalized on that. And anything that I wanted to learn, why, I got to do. And I wanted to do Crown and Bridge, so I spent 4 days in Dallas, my wife with me. And at that time, we were just learning to do porcelain fused to metal. And so I got a good start, and all my, well, nobody, none of the other labs in Kansas City around thought I was competition because I was a private technician. But they accepted me real good. I went to all the meetings and everything, and went up through the chairs and stuff.
That's great.
And then when I went into business for myself, why, they still didn't feel like I was a competition. So I had a really good rapport with my friends that was in the business. And I got to go places they didn't get to go because of working with this dentist. And if I learned it, then I'd pass it on to them. And we had to put names. We had to put identification indentures, and we had an awful time with it. And this one girl that was working for me, she thought about her daughter had this shrink-a-dink. And so I typed on it and then shrank it and then cut it down. We could put it in the denture.
Oh my gosh.
And I tried to get her to go to Kansas City, one of the meetings, and tell about it. She wouldn't do it, so I did. And the guy says, "You want to get a patent on that?" I says, "Oh, on an idea." And so everybody got to use it, and they're still using it today.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how many years ago that was, but it's still good, a real good way of identification and
Right.
name in the denture.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how long did you work in the dentistry? So you started right after you got out from the war,
Yeah.
and how many years?
Well, then what year did I retire?
93.
Anyhow, I didn't retire till I had to, and I sold my business to a young boy and moved down from Kansas City. And I don't know how many times he's thanked me for selling it to him. Where he lived in Kansas, his kids couldn't go out of the yard. And I told him, I says, "Well, now, they can go all over town here." I says, "People will look after them." I says, "If you see a neighbor lady that chewing your kid out, don't enter into it." I says, "That same lady will pick your kid up and give him a hug if they need it." So
Small
they were
town.
really happy there.
Yeah, that's great.
Small town.
Yeah, for sure. So you're actually, I want to go back to your time in the service. You were actually in the infantry,
Yes.
and then did they switch you into another unit when you started doing the dentist work, or you just
Yeah, I was in a MASH unit.
mash unit?
It was a completely different.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
well, I was in the
Like a
32nd Division.
32nd. Okay.
That's the infantry division, and that was a Wisconsin. Uh, well, another. Anyhow, they were activated in World War One, and they were in Europe, and then they activated them again in World War Two,
Mhm.
and so, and then the MASH unit was in the 24th Division.
Okay. So what was your rank or your title?
Well, sergeant,
Sergeant?
and my title was a dental assistant, but they had two dental assistants, and we were in the lab. I never did understand how the captain got all that pulled.
You had something.
Yeah,
Do you recall when your enlistment date was? When you started in the service?
well, I think it's all in here someplace.
Okay, we can look at that. Yeah. And so you spent after you got out of basics and got into Manila, did you stay there the whole time you were in the service?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Oh, you
I
went to
was in
Japan. You went to Japan. And
Yeah.
is Japan where you were in the MASH unit?
Yes,
Okay.
I
And
was
so
in Japan longer. I wasn't in the Philippines all that.
not too long.
No.
So then you finished your time out in Japan
Yes.
until you got your 85 points or whatever.
Well, I only had about 19, I think.
They finally decided to let you go.
Yeah, well, I should have gone 30 days. They declared me essential, and I decided they wasn't going to get anything out of me, but they did, because uh, then then I got to go after my 30 days was up. They tried to get me to stay longer, but I'd had enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So you
And
came.
I thought about re-enlisting, but I got home and that took care of that. Especially when I got back doing what I like to do anyhow.
Right. You came back to Kansas, and did you come back to Salina then?
No, I came back to Delavan.
And where your family was?
Yeah.
And from there you.
Well, this one boy, this really good. His brothers and my brother was well, one of them was 10 years younger than we were. So we were closer to brothers than we were to our brothers. Yeah.
Did your brothers, were they in the service?
No, one wanted to go, but he had kind of a heart condition or some sort.
Mm-hmm.
But shucks, he was a mile runner, and I never could understand what. But anyhow, he didn't get to go.
Yeah. Do you have any stories you'd like to tell while you were in the service? Any story?
One of the stories that when we were coming home for basic training, this one boy that was with me, we got we were in the same squad and everything. I went all the way through basic training. And we came back on a train to Emporia, and this other boy that was went with us. One went to the Navy, and the other one went on down further to take his basic training. And when we were on the train going up, or he was there, and he at Emporia, my folks came to pick us up, so they picked us, three of us up, and took us up to Council Grove and stuff. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a small world.
Yeah, and some of the other stories I don't want to talk about.
That's fine.
But I learned more from a big sergeant from Michigan in a few weeks with him than I did basic training, I think.
It's good. Basic training was hard.
No, I come off of a farm.
Oh, of course.
Basic training would.
Wasn't much compared to farming. Yeah.
The hardest part was the first trail, but I think it was a 5-mile march. That was the hardest one we done. Later on, we were doing 20-mile, but they think to it.
Got used to it.
And I was the tallest one in our squad, so they had the tallest one in front, so I was all in one. We come to a road where I'd have to run out and stand guard and then run back and get in line. So I got more miles in than a lot of them did.
That was good for you.
Yeah, it was good for me.
Did you ever have a chance to meet General Eisenhower?
No, but I had to salute MacArthur twice. I got, his friend I talk about that I went to high school with, he stayed in the Philippines. He was with something to do with graves. And then later on, I don't know, it was after I got into the other outfit, he got moved to Japan, and I got a TDY, and I got to spend 10 days in Japan with him. It was called the old Kaijo building, and he was on the second floor. He looked down at the radio station, or railroad station in Japan, and the roof was gone. And right around the corner was the new Kaijo building, and that was where MacArthur was. And I was out walking around, and MacArthur came out of that building, and I was right there, and I had to salute him.
Surprise!
Yeah, and the same thing happened later on. So,
Well, that
so
was
then
exciting.
this friend, Don Harrison, he got TDY down and spent 10 days with me down where Sasebo. So, and there was they had kind of like Yellowstone. He had hot bubbles. Well, lava would come up and stuff. So we had hot baths, stuff.
Went in the hot springs.
Yeah. And there was one of the things I thought was really interesting. The Japanese people were really clean, and everything was clean. And after the Philippines, I enjoyed Japan. They used to have bathhouses. They'd have a bathtub would be probably as big as this room, and bigger. And there would be warm water or hot. Then they would have a smaller, just a tub, and that would be cold water. You got it out of that way, plunge down into that cold water. That was supposed to be close your pores, you would get sick. But anyhow, they'd bring whole families in, and the women would strip off and just come in, and we soldiers was in there. Well, they found out back in the States, what that was doing to us soldier boys, seeing those women naked. So they ostracized it. What they did, they put a rope down through the middle. We had to stay on one side, they stayed on the other.
Darn it, right?
Yeah. But you never thought anything about it.
That's what they were used
It's
to.
just the way they lived, so
And that was in Japan, correct?
yeah.
Wow.
I thought, of course, that was people at home not knowing what's going on over there.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of
Well,
difference
yes.
in culture.
A lot of difference.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the military changed your life? Being in the military?
Well, sure. I'd about have been a coach or a school teacher. But I like I say, doing that lab work, it satisfied the creative urge, served mankind, and made me a living. What else is there?
It was perfect. Do you have any message you'd like to share to the generations to come that might view this interview? Have any messages?
Well, I know the next generation has been going to the dogs since the time of Socrates, but I was flying out to my daughters and the plane couldn't land because of weather, and so we finally landed I was sitting with some teenage boys and a girl, and this one's dad had a business where he could just get a car. So they, three of those boys and that girl, they got this car and drove us to Missoula. And I'll tell you, I couldn't keep up with them. So this one boy, he found a wheelchair and put me in that wheelchair and wheeled me around. And those young kids took care of me like you wouldn't believe. So when I got to my daughters, I wrote a letter to the editor, and I had their first names, and I said they really changed my mind about it, the third generation from me.
There's good people, right? Yeah. That's an awesome story. Thanks for sharing that. It meant a lot to you. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope they read the.
I bet they did. I bet someone saw it and told them.
Well, all I had was first names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think we might be okay? The next generation's got
Yep.
some good people. I agree. Was there anything else you want to share about your time in the service?
Well, I'm glad I went, but I don't want to go in.
I understand. Great. Well, thank you so much for doing the interview. Thank you for your
I
service.
just lucked out being as young as I was. My dad was in World War II, and he was getting ready to ship over the fence, and the war ended.
Mm-hmm.
But he used to tell he was right where the bullets were the thickest. He drove the ammunition wagon,
Oh.
4 head of mules.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.